They laughed when the janitor's son stepped forward until the impossible roared back to life. Death, sir. In the heart of Detroit's sprawling industrial maze, where steel met sweat and the rhythmic grind of machinery underscored every hour, Jake Mercer moved quietly beside his father, the janitor. He was just a shadow to most, the kid who swept floors and emptied bins, invisible in a world run by wrenches and roaring engines. Few remembered his name. Fewer still respected it, but Jake was watching, listening, learning. Every afternoon after school, he buried himself in the plant's chaotic corners, eyes locked on the mechanics who treated him like background noise. While they spoke of torque and timing, he absorbed everything in silence, piece by piece, building a knowledge no one knew he had. They saw janitor's son. Jake saw something more. Then came the day that would test every hidden lesson he had stored away. It was a bitter Monday morning when the plant's main engine, an enormous temperamental beast, shuddered to a halt. The air turned electric with panic. Workers froze. Even the senior mechanics, men with decades under their belts, stepped back. No one dared touch it. The machine was their lifeline. If it didn't get fixed, the plant would bleed thousands of dollars by the hour. Mr. Harding, the plant boss, paced like a caged animal. Known for his brutal efficiency and zero tolerance for failure, his face twisted in frustration. "This is our heart," he snapped, glaring at the broken engine. "If this doesn't come back online, we're done." Whispers ran like static through the workshop. Doubt hung heavy. Then, through the tension, his voice cut like a blade. "Mercer, come here." Jake froze. Every head turned, eyes narrowed, some mocking, some curious, many unbelieving. Still, Jake stepped forward. The laughter came quick, sharp, cruel, echoing against steel walls. You think you can fix it?" Mr. Harding sneered, disbelief dripping from every word. "Everyone here says it's impossible. But if you're so sure of yourself, prove it." Jake's heart pounded like a drum in his chest. The moment stretched. But he didn't flinch, because he wasn't just a janitor's kid. He was a student of the machines, self-taught in the shadows, shaped by grit and curiosity. And he wasn't here to impress anyone. He was here to rise. As he knelt beside the silent giant, the room fell into stunned silence. Every move he made was met with skeptical stares. Jake examined the worn-out wires, corroded connections, and twisted pipes with an expert's eye. He saw what others missed. Not just the parts, but the pattern. His hands moved with quiet confidence, unscrewing bolts, rerouting pressure lines, recalibrating the sensors. He wasn't guessing. He knew. Every lesson he'd stolen from a distance, every observation made during years of being overlooked, it all came flooding back in perfect clarity. Minutes bled into hours. The mocking whispers dulled into murmurs of surprise. Slowly, like a heartbeat returning, the machine coughed. Then word. Sparks flickered at its core. Jake kept working, hands steady, mind sharp. And finally, like thunder rolling in after a storm, the engine roared back to life. The room erupted in disbelief. Shock was etched into every face. The very machine declared beyond repair had just been resurrected by the janitor's son. Mr. Harding stared, stunned. His expression, once hard as iron, cracked into something resembling respect. The same man who had mocked Jake now gave him a slow nod. For the first time, Jake wasn't invisible. He wasn't just the help. He was someone who had done the impossible. The laughter had turned into applause. But for Jake, this moment wasn't just about a machine. It was about everything they said he couldn't be. It was about proving that background doesn't determine brilliance, that courage, grit, and silent determination can tear down any wall built by doubt or status. He stood up, grease-stained and drenched in sweat, but standing taller than he ever had before. From that day on, The plant changed. The air itself felt different, less heavy, more charged with possibility. Men who had once sneered now looked at Jake with a mix of hesitation and admiration. Whispers followed him still, but they carried curiosity instead of contempt. Even Mr. Harding couldn't hide his shift in tone. Jake could feel the weight of their stares, their silence. But he didn't shrink under it. He grew. Word of his accomplishment spread fast, faster than any engine in the plant. Management called him in, not for janitorial duties, but to explain how he'd done it. Jake stood in rooms he had never imagined entering. He spoke of mechanical flows, circuit relays, torque ratios, all with calm confidence. His explanations were clear, his mind razor sharp. And for the first time, they listened. Some, but with recognition came resistance. Some coworkers murmured doubts. They said he was just lucky, that maybe someone else had done the real work. The jealousy was bitter, the resentment sharp, but Jake didn't flinch. He knew better than to measure himself by the noise of naysayers. Instead, he worked harder, arriving early, leaving late, tackling every job with precision and purpose. Then came another test. Tie. Weeks later, a second crisis hit. Another crucial machine failed. This one even more complex, threatening to shut down the entire production line and cost the company millions. The experienced team gathered, their faces grim. No answers came. No fix seemed possible. Jake stood at the edge again, watching, waiting. And when the silence grew too thick, he stepped forward. "May I take a look?" All eyes turned once more. Mr. Harding gave a small nod. Jake approached, not with arrogance, but with clarity. He crouched by the machinery, scanning its systems with the same intensity as before. The broken pieces spoke to him, and he answered. Hands steady, mind focused, Jake began the delicate process. Wires reconnected, panels removed and replaced. The machine groaned in protest, but he didn't stop. This wasn't guesswork. It was art. Minutes ticked by. Then, the soft hum of awakening, a flicker of light, a pulse, and finally, a triumphant roar. The workshop erupted in cheers. Jake had done it again. But what Jake accomplished wasn't just technical. It was human. He shattered expectations, peeled back layers of bias and assumption, and stood tall in a place that had once overlooked him completely. He didn't just fix machines. He changed minds. He shifted what was possible. Jake Mercer's story is not just one of talent. It's a story of unseen potential, of perseverance forged in silence, and of a young man who proved that greatness can rise from the most overlooked corners. From janitor's son to workshop hero, Jake became a symbol of what happens when you dare to believe in yourself, when you let your work speak louder than their doubt. And for the first time in his life, Jake wasn't following in anyone's shadow. He was casting his own. The people who once mocked him now watched in silence as a leader began to emerge before their eyes. Jake Mercer, once the invisible janitor's son, stood at the center of their admiration, not because he demanded it, but because he had earned it. Despite the growing success and attention, Jake remained grounded. He understood that every triumph only opened the door to tougher challenges and more watchful skeptics. But he was ready. No longer unseen, no longer dismissed. Jake had become a force to be reckoned with. And more importantly, his journey was inspiring others, those like him, who had been overlooked and underestimated, to believe in their own potential. Each step Jake took was no longer just about personal growth. It was about shifting the course for everyone who had ever been told they couldn't. The plant's cheers had barely quieted when a man named Richard Caldwell arrived. His presence like a spark in a room full of oil. A representative from one of the country's top engineering firms, known for working with industry giants, Richard's sudden appearance sent a ripple of anxiety through the workforce. His kind of visit wasn't routine, and everyone knew it could mean change. Big change, the kind that brought opportunities for some and uncertainty for others. Jake's heart pounded. He understood this moment could swing the doors wide open or slam them shut forever. Richard walked through the workshop with a sharp, discerning gaze. He examined the machinery, nodded at the workers, and then stopped, eyes resting squarely on Jake. He asked to see the engine Jake had recently repaired, along with the notes Jake had meticulously kept. Without hesitation, Jake handed over the thick stack of documentation. It wasn't just a log of fixes. It was a testament to his dedication, each detail carefully written with clarity and precision. Richard flipped through the pages, nodding with increasing interest. It wasn't luck or guesswork. Jake's grasp of the mechanics, his innovation, and the way he broke down problems. It all pointed to rare, raw talent. What began as an inspection evolved into a discussion about possibility. Richard explained his firm's mission: to find new minds, fresh ideas, and people unafraid to challenge tradition. He spoke of innovation, of redefining engineering through unconventional thinking. Jake listened, intrigued, and suddenly aware that maybe his dreams were even bigger than this plant. The idea of contributing to something vast, something that pushed the very boundaries of technology, electrified him. Yet, not everyone shared the excitement. Some of the senior mechanics, long comfortable in their positions, felt threatened by the spotlight Jake had attracted. The whispers began. He hadn't earned his place. He was just a lucky kid playing in a grown man's world. The tension at the plant thickened, but Jake didn't fire back. He let his work speak. Day after day, he pushed harder, learned more, and proved, without ego or words, that he belonged. In the middle of it all, his relationship with his father deepened. The man who had quietly swept floors for decades now saw a flicker of something greater in his son's eyes. A fire that reignited his own hope. They spent long evenings together, talking about engines, about life, about what success truly meant. His father reminded him that strength wasn't measured by status or paychecks, but by heart, perseverance, and how one carries themselves when no one is watching. Then the offer came. Richard Caldwell invited Jake to visit the firm's headquarters in Chicago. A chance to step beyond the familiar into the unknown, where his skills would be truly tested. Jake felt a rush of excitement mingled with nerves. This was more than a trip. It was a threshold. What awaited him there would stretch him in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Opportunities, betrayals, friendships, and trials that would test his very character. When the train pulled into the station, Chicago rose before Jake like a steel giant. The towering skyline, the rush of traffic, the endless crowd of strangers. It was intimidating and magnificent all at once. But Jake didn't shrink from it. Every stride he took echoed the long nights, the failures, the breakthroughs that had carried him here. At Caldwell Engineering, he stepped into a new realm, an arena of innovation humming with glass walls, bright lights, and the sharp minds who shaped the future of industry. Richard greeted him not as a visitor, but as a peer. He introduced Jake to a team of top engineers, people whose ideas changed the world. And though Jake carried no formal degree, they didn't see a janitor's son. They saw someone who could make a difference. To test that belief, Jake was handed a project. Design a new engine part that would improve efficiency while reducing cost. The assignment was grueling. Tight deadlines, technical complexity, and the silent challenge of proving his worth to a skeptical room. Jake dove in head first. The nights bled into days as he pored over blueprints and calculations, sketching out prototypes by hand. Some engineers dismissed him at first. What could a plant mechanic know about high-level design? But Jake didn't let their doubt affect him. He listened, observed, and absorbed everything. And then, with quiet confidence, he introduced ideas that no one else had seen. His adjustments transformed the design, not just functional, but innovative. Slowly, the team began to take notice. The doubters fell silent. Jake had earned their respect not through speeches, but through brilliance. When the prototype was finally tested, All eyes turned to the monitors. The part didn't just meet expectations, it shattered them. Efficiency soared beyond projections. The lab erupted in applause. Richard Caldwell beamed with pride. Jake's heart surged with quiet triumph. It was more than a win. It was validation. All the years of being overlooked, all the doubts, all the setbacks, they had led to this moment. But this wasn't just about engineering. Jake's real breakthrough was personal. He realized that his journey wasn't about fixing machines. It was about breaking chains. The invisible labels placed on him since birth, the assumptions and ceilings others had imposed, he had crushed them. He was no longer just surviving. He was leading. Jake Mercer had become a symbol of possibility for anyone who had ever felt too small to dream big. Returning to Detroit, Jake stepped off the train with a new sense of self. The same streets looked different now. The same plant, once a place of routine and skepticism, felt charged with new energy. Some workers greeted him warmly, others hung back, unsure how to react. But when Mr. Harding approached, the silence held weight. The man who once doubted Jake now extended a hand. It wasn't a gesture of surrender. It was a recognition, an unspoken apology, and most of all, respect. Jake shook it without pride or resentment, just understanding. In the weeks that followed, something extraordinary happened. People started coming to Jake for advice, not just about machines, but about how to believe in themselves again. His journey began to spread. The culture at the plant shifted. Collaboration grew. Doubts gave way to curiosity. Jake had sparked something powerful. Hope. But Jake's vision reached far beyond the factory floor. With Richard Caldwell's mentorship, he enrolled in an engineering program to gain formal training and sharpen his skills. Each day brought new concepts, new pressures, but Jake never flinched. He welcomed the grind, knowing it would only deepen his ability to make real, lasting impact. Education, he realized, wasn't just about knowledge. It was about unlocking more ways to lead, create, and elevate others. Then came the final twist. Jake was selected to lead a new initiative at Caldwell Engineering, focused on developing sustainable technology. It was a massive leap. A chance not just to design, but to guide innovation that could shape industries and protect the planet. The project demanded everything Jake had: vision, discipline, humility, and courage. But as he stood before his team, ready to launch this mission, he didn't see fear in their eyes. He saw belief. Jake smiled to himself in that moment. He remembered the boy who used to mop floors in silence, the young man who patched machines at night while others slept. That boy had not vanished. He had risen. He had become a man capable of reshaping the future. And though his journey had been steep and filled with doubt, he had never let go of the belief that something greater was possible. This story, Jake Mercer's story, is a testament to what happens when courage meets opportunity, and when hard work is fueled by a belief that no ceiling is unbreakable. It reminds us all that no matter our beginnings, greatness lives in every corner of the unseen, the underestimated, and the overlooked. You've been with me through every moment of this incredible journey, and trust me when I say, Jake Mercer's best is yet to come. Ye.